Hey, it's Justin Morgan here, the chairperson at Sinclair Community College here in the automotive department. Today is Automotive Monday, and we're going to talk to you about jump starting your vehicle. We have some items we want to show you on how to jump start your vehicle. So let's take a look at what we have here. Jumper cables, of course, traditionally. There's quality differences. The ones here in the pouch, the larger ones, are going to be what I'd recommend. These other jumper cables up here, although good, have a little bit smaller conductor inside of them. We also have a booster pack, of course. That's what we use here at Sinclair's campus. The biggest thing that you need to be aware of, though, is that there's a lot of safety risk involved. So it's my opinion that you want to consult your owner's manual to make sure that you have that correct. So we have a 2005 Dodge Magnum and a 2012 Buick here that we're going to jump start. One thing that's unique on a lot of our newer vehicles is your battery's not actually here in your engine bay. It's in the trunk, it's underneath the passenger seat, it's underneath the rear seat. It's someplace that you can't get jumper cables to very easily. What the manufacturers have done for you, though, is they put jump start posts up here. That way, if you did have a battery that went dead, you have the ability to jump start it from your engine bay. So in this 2005 Dodge Magnum, the battery is actually located towards the rear, and so they have jump start posts that you can see here by me pointing to the two different spots here on the engine compartment. The most important thing is as you start to make the connection is you don't want to reverse polarity. That basically means where you put the positive where the ground is and the ground where the positive is. And in most cases, your ground is going to be your black cable. It's going to be your negative cable. The red is going to be your positive cable. In this case, if you're not sure, the best thing to do is look at the actual battery itself. And minus, of course, means ground or negative. A positive, of course, means the positive side of the cable. So plus sign would mean positive. That's not always the case. So you want to make sure you double check. If you're not sure, this is where you can get yourself into some costly repair bills if you get the polarity crisscross. You want to make sure that this is the most important step to this is having positive to positive, negative to negative, and making sure that you keep your cables separated when you make the connections. And that's a very important piece as well. So step one, you're going to take your positive connection and actually connect it to the vehicle with the charge battery. While doing this, you're going to actually keep your connections at the other end, your other two leads, separated. This is to ensure that there's no sparks occurring if those two, that positive and ground, were to touch each other. To alleviate any of these issues, what we're then going to do is our second step is we're going to connect to the positive end of the dead battery. In this case, this vehicle does not actually have a positive or a battery up here in the engine compartment, so we're going to actually do it at the jump start post here on our next step. Our third step is we're going to go actually back to the vehicle that has the charged battery. It's going to make a connection actually at the negative post of the ground cable. Make sure to get a good bite on the cables when you're doing so to make sure that you have a very good connection. Our final connection is actually going to be at the engine of the dead battery. Now, some of you might want to go to the jump start post or the battery post of the dead battery. However, I would tell you that the engine block or a good aluminum ground is going to be your best bet. If you're not sure, probably use your owner's manual to find that. The reason being is it's normal to have a small spark basically as you connect the circuit up, and what you want to do is alleviate any sparks from occurring over the battery. So here we're going to connect it to the dead vehicle or dead battery, and we're going to go right here to this aluminum housing, the timing chain cover here, and make our last final connection. So our next step is, of course, we're going to take our vehicle that has the charged battery, and we're going to go ahead and start it up and let it run for probably at least 3 to 5 minutes to allow the battery to charge the vehicle with the dead battery. Alright, so we went ahead and started the battery. We're going to let it run for about 3 to 5 minutes. This is good to make sure that this battery of the charged vehicle is charging the battery on our dead vehicle. Sometimes people will turn on headlights or bring up the RPM on the engine that is running. The whole intended purpose of this is to use your alternator to produce current to basically charge your dead battery. The more discharged your battery is on the dead vehicle, the longer you're probably going to have to let your vehicle run. So one thing you want to make sure is that you have quality cables, because I have seen some lower quality cables on the aftermarket basically that are provided that won't do the job in a lot of cases. So as we showed you, those heavier duty cables that I showed you earlier on the video are good cables that you want to make sure you use. Now the next step is, after we've waited the 3 to 5 minutes with the battery charging, we're going to go ahead and get in our discharge vehicle. Hopefully everything fires up. We'll reach in, see if it fires up. If it continues to click or doesn't seem like it's charged, what I'd recommend is kind of wiggling each connection to make sure that you do have a good connection. This is actually not uncommon, so don't be afraid to go up there and make sure that you have a good connection at all your clamps. Everything's good. Now, the most important thing here is, now that this vehicle is running, the biggest thing is don't shut the vehicle off. You need to go ahead and remove your connections while the engine is running on both vehicles. specifically the vehicle that actually had the discharge battery. So it's okay to shut off your good vehicle, but now we need to go ahead and remove these connections. Another important fact, if you're going to go get gas or something or make a stop on the way home, it is my recommendation to go ahead and leave this vehicle running. The reason being is if you just shut the vehicle off and you drive 5 minutes down the road, what's going to happen is the alternator is not going to have enough time to charge the battery. So ideally you'd want to run it, charge it 20 or 30 minutes or run this vehicle for a little while, or maybe even when you get home, allow it to run for a while if you don't have a battery charger to allow the alternator to charge. This might be a good time, if you're not sure, to check your alternator, to check your battery at your local mechanic or repair shop. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do the reverse order of what we did initially. So we're going to take off our ground from our charge, or what was our discharge vehicle, that's our 05 Dodge Magnum. We're going to disconnect that first. Step 2, we're going to go to our Buick, disconnect the ground on that. Step 3, we're going to go back to our discharge vehicle, which is going to be our 05 Dodge Magnum. We're going to disconnect the positive. And last, our step 4 is we're going to disconnect the positive of our Buick. And that will be round out our procedure. For your safety, something that you probably want to keep in mind is when you're disconnecting the cables is that you have a cooling fan, electric cooling fan, or mechanical fan that's running. You also have belts and pulleys that are rotating. So whenever you're disconnecting those cables, make sure that you lay them down either on the ground or someplace safe that make sure that you're going to stay out of harm's way. That's probably one of the tips I would make sure that you're aware of too whenever you're doing this procedure. But it is my opinion that anybody can do this. Hopefully this video puts some confidence back into you that you can do this if you have this issue. Better yet, what I would recommend is before this happens to you is get your battery tested by your local repair facility. If it's 5 to 6 or 7 years of age, you probably, even though it's working right now, that first cold snap when it gets down to 20 degrees or less, it's probably going to go out on you. And nothing's worse than going out with the car first thing in the morning and not be able to start your vehicle or out there at the grocery store. So my opinion is go ahead and get that checked right now.